I'm Brian Scott here with Mr. Larry Conway, and he's agreed to give me some of his time so he can talk to me about efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question is, do you feel like you live and work efficiently according to the definition we just went over?
Well, that's I would have to say yes and no.
Okay.
There are times that I do
Mm-hmm.
because of some things I've learned about that topic and some things I've learned about working in my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times I feel like I live and work efficiently, but never 100%.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And can you give me some examples of how you see yourself sometimes working efficiently and sometimes not?
Well, yeah, let me think about that for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned this just a few seconds ago, but in the areas where I feel I work in my strength, then I definitely am efficient. And for example, I'm a better communicator than I am an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good with details, but I'm good with people. So in my career as a missionary, whenever I'm working with people, that's a strength for me. And so I don't waste a lot of time, or it's not ineffective. It's more efficient and more effective.
Mm-hmm.
So does that help? Does that answer
Yeah.
that question?
Yeah.
So working in my strengths allows me to be more efficient.
Yeah.
And I think also I've learned to empower other people, especially in areas where I'm not strong, and that makes the team work efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So to make up for my lack of efficiency, I've learned in many cases to just empower others, delegate, and then that makes my weaknesses become even stronger because of my ability or my desire to hand it off to other people who are strong in that area.
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say that you would you look at your life, I guess, in strengths and weaknesses, different areas, and
Yeah.
some your strengths you work efficiently, and your weaknesses not so much.
Definitely.
And so one of your strengths would be, you said, relating to people well.
Right, communication.
And maybe, like, what would you say one of the weaknesses were? Administration.
Yeah, right.
And so can you tell me about
I hit
some...
the camera. Sorry about that.
Can you tell me about some memories that you have of when you, I guess, were in a situation and you were relating to people well, and you felt like it happened efficiently, and maybe another memory of when you were placed in a position to do something administrative and it didn't go.
Yeah, sure.
go so well.
Maybe I can remember some things. In my job in Nairobi, I'm an evangelist, so I actually go out on the streets and meet with homeless teenagers that live on the streets, and I get a good feeling in my heart that, well, first of all, it kind of gives me energy. It doesn't deplete.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I get a good return because this is a role that our church wanted someone to fulfill. And so I get a good feeling from it in that it doesn't deplete me. It actually gives me energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that was needed in the position. And as an evangelist, I'm talking to people about Christ, and I've been able to see people come to Christ. Now, what was the second part of the question? Maybe where I'm not so efficient?
Yeah, a memory that maybe some evidence that you've
Right.
seen that would make you look at yourself and say, well, that's definitely not my strongest place.
Sure.
I'm not as efficient in that.
One of the roles a missionary has to do is accounting, to do for financial reports and so forth. And early on, I realized this was not a strength for me. I tried to do it, but it was stressful, and I didn't do it very well. So immediately or early on, and I've been a missionary for this is our 26th year.
Okay.
I asked my wife to do it, and she did it, and she still does it, and it's definitely more effective and more efficient.
Yeah.
She can do it faster without as much stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's really
the
good.
financial reports, those tedious things, working with numbers is also a real weakness for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she does it, and that's an example.
Yeah, those are
First
good.
example came to mind.
Good examples. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a close personal group of believers that you spend a good amount of time with?
Mm-hmm.
I guess in your life, you would say right now, is there a group that comes to mind?
Definitely. Our Kenyan co-workers.
Can you tell me about that group and
Sure.
maybe what it is that unites you all, brings you together.
Right.
What is that is special about that group of people?
Right. I work on a team with my wife and I being the only full-time Americans. There's a part-time family from the U.S., so they're in Kenya about 3 months, and they're in the U.S. 3 months. So the rest of the team are Kenyans, and there's about 30 of them. And from that group of 30, there's about 7 or 8 that I work very closely with, and what I mean by that is I'm with them 6 days of the week. And so that would be the team or the people I'm closest with. Other people I'm close with are other missionaries, not necessarily with the Church of Christ, because our team is quite small as far as Church of Christ missionaries, but acquaintances and friends that we've met and become close to over the years in the school where our kids went to school, families. And we also did things like Boy Scouts, and there were sporting events that the kids did, and we got to know each other that way. And they're very important. They really help us a lot.
What are the reasons you would say that you're with that group of 30 and then with that group of 8 or 9 more often?
Well, sure. Location. It's a team of about 30, and it has 2 campuses, and one campus is in town, or one facility is in town, and that would be the group of 8. So I'm there due to the nature of the work. And what brings us together, I think you asked this in the previous thing, I didn't actually direct it or answer it very well. It's our mission, our goals, and our vision and our mission that brings us together, keeps us working together, and allows us to be a team of 8 and then a team of 30.
Will you tell me some more about that vision?
Yeah, sure. Our goal is to help locate and rehabilitate homeless teenagers that live on the streets of Nairobi. And that term rehabilitate means, first of all, introducing them to Christ, but it means getting them off of the streets and get them into a safe place where they can live and go to school and learn a trade. And so that's what we do, is rescue and rehabilitate with the gospel, with love, and with education, teenagers, so that they can become God's people and become normal citizens of Kenya.
Yeah, that's good. Larry, would you say this group, let's say the group of 8 and 9 that are with you in town, would you say that your community is an efficient one, according to the definition that we reviewed earlier?
Yes, for the most part. I don't think we ever reach 100% efficiency, or I don't even know if we would reach 90, but for the most part, we've been able to have people work in their strength zones. And when you do that, that means more effectiveness and more efficiency. We recently did a strengths test from a book called Strengths Finder, and that helped us learn everyone's strengths. And sure enough, in most cases, we already had people working in their strength zones before we actually knew what that all meant. But I'm going to say, for the most part, we're definitely an effective and efficient team. But I don't think it's something you reach. You reach 100%.
Yeah, completely. It's always improvement.
Right.
Could you tell me a little bit about the individuals in that group, and what are the different? So you say you're really good with connecting the people. Right. Are there some more who have that same strength in your group? What are some of the other areas also?
Sure. On that team, I'm not the boss. There's a Kenyan who is the boss in that team of 8. Or, of course, we wouldn't call her boss. She's actually a woman. We call her team leader. She actually came from a poverty situation in Kenya. She was a single mom. She was addicted to alcohol, and many of the people we're reaching out to have those very same issues. And so she relates very, very well. She understands better than I ever could, because I've never lived on the street and I've never been an alcoholic. I've also never been a single parent. She has. Other teammates, we have, let's see, there's one other young man who is also a former street kid, grew up on the streets, knows all about it. Then there's another young man who works with us on the streets, but one of the things he's passionate about is medical needs, so he's our first aid officer. And think about it, if you live on the streets of Nairobi, you dig through the trash, you may step on a nail, or you may cut yourself on a piece of metal or whatever, but where does a street person go to get first aid? Well, they come to us. and he's in that role because he's very sympathetic, very loving, very patient, and so he fills that role. Yeah. And let's see, there's another young woman who's very good with little children. She's very patient, whereas I'm not quite so patient with little kids, but she is.
Yeah.
And so what happens, the mothers come in off the street for a few hours the week, and our team teaches them Bible subjects, Bible themes, maybe health themes also, and they bring their children. And while the children are there, this teammate, Jane, teaches those kids and loves them, gets them singing, gets them to obey, and she just does it so much more effectively and efficiently than I ever would.
Yeah.
So those are some examples.
So your team is efficient because people are covering maybe areas that other teammates may not be able to cover because of who they are. It sounds like experiences play a big role in where people are
that's right. I hadn't thought of it so much, but you're right. Yeah, where they come from, what they've had experience with.
Yeah. My next question. When you all are making decisions, I'm not sure how you all do this, or if you're dreaming about what could happen in the future, or what does God want to do next, whether that be next week for an event, or a few years away, or even further. When you all are thinking about that, how much do you think trying to be efficient plays a role in that type of conversation for this community?
Well, it's certainly something we aim for, but I think there's definitely some room for growth in our meetings. I think we lose a lot of time and energy and momentum in meetings. Our meetings are too long, and our meetings, a lot of times we don't make someone accountable for that task. And that doesn't lead to an effective or an efficient team. We may discuss something today and spend 45 minutes on it, but we may forget, I guess that's the right word, forget to make someone accountable for that task. So the next time we meet, we don't even bring it up. And so we spend a lot of time in meetings, but things don't necessarily change because of our lack of efficiency in the meeting process. I think a lot of organizations struggle with this, actually.
Yeah.
So we could improve that.
Would you have an average you could spit out on how much time you usually spend in the meeting? Is it usually around the same amount of time, or does it change a lot?
It varies. I would say we have smaller meetings, let's just say a couple of times a year, but then around December we always have the goal meeting or the goal setting meeting, and sometimes those are actually pretty poor because forgetfulness, everyone's really busy, and also, once again, that lack of accountability. And I think we forget what our goals actually are in some areas. Maybe not all, but maybe we have 8 goals. We might forget 5 of them, but remember 3. And if we could be more accountable, have those goals in front of us more often, would help tremendously.
Would you say, so you said you meet maybe, twice a year, you said?
Well, that would be the big meetings, I think.
Okay.
We would have smaller meetings. I'm going to say, all right, our team of 8, around lunchtime, we eat lunch together and we discuss things. That's not really an official meeting. But I'm going to say maybe 3 times a year we have some smaller meetings about maybe things that are kind of urgent. And then we have 2 big meetings probably a year. But I think we definitely are weak in those. We definitely need more strength and more accountability. Assign this task to Brian or to Larry, and then they've got to come up with feedback in the next meeting. We need to follow up. I think we really lose a lot of efficiency in the meeting process.
So maybe being focused in the meeting, but losing the focus outside the meeting.
Definitely.
Would you say that the unofficial lunch meetings have the same issue, or do you say they were probably a little bit better or worse?
I'm going to say they're a little bit better.
Maybe because it's more often?
Exactly. Well said. Because we do share lunch together every day, and that's very good. I could see it being less efficient if we all went our separate ways for lunch. Because I might go with Brian, and then the other 4 members go somewhere else, or I might go alone. But having our lunch together is wonderful because we're together and we get input from everyone. That's definitely leads to efficiency.
I'm curious what the topics generally of conversation are. So you have, let's maybe compare that, maybe like you said, the end of the year, December goal setting meeting,
Right.
and then your daily lunch unofficial meetings. Are those like really extremely different topics of conversation, or are they kind of the same thing? What would you say?
Well, a little bit of both.
Okay.
They're always about the ministry, for the most part. I mean, we don't talk ministry or talk work every lunch, but if there's a need that someone's come up, or a weakness, or something we need to change, well, that's an appropriate time to bring it up. So daily meetings are just good because we are together, and it's informal, and I think we all feel pretty safe in those meetings. And so that allows us to be more effective and more efficient. But just being together frequently allows that to happen.
Thanks.
I hope I answered your question. Rephrase it, or remind me of the question. I'll go back to it if I need to.
So you said in both meetings you talk about ministry. In the goal setting one, one of the big ones at the end of the year, and then there's lunch meetings. You also talk about ministry.
But not necessarily goals.
Okay, and so that's kind of what I'm wondering is what are the differences in the natures of those conversations, the topics, and the way you talk about them? Maybe the atmosphere. Well, I'm going to say the atmosphere is positive because we try to keep it where people feel safe. We'll just talk about things that maybe happened that day or urgent things. And I see it as important. I love change, and I don't necessarily like rules. So I like to say, if this isn't working, why don't we change it? I believe it was Einstein who said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again but expecting the same result. Well, I really like that and believe that, and I hate wasting time. So I don't want to do something if it's not working. So we talk frequently about things that are common that week, or maybe that day, or a problem someone's having, a challenge, or how we can do it differently. Whereas a goal setting is typically something new we're going to try and do for that year. Gotcha. Would you say that meeting's less comfortable? I asked that because you talked about the weekly meetings being a really safe place. So I wonder, is that something that's really different than that meeting, or is that also true in the goal setting meeting?
I think the formality of the larger meeting, or the once or twice a year meeting, makes it a little less safe. And what I mean by safe is I think it'd be great for people just to say, hey, this isn't working, so let's stop it. Or why are we doing that? You know, I've read in books about people who have to-do lists. Why don't we have to-don't list? Well, I'm a believer in that. Why are we doing that? Let's don't do it. But because of the formality of this is our goal setting this year, I think that kind of intimidates people, and people are a little fearful to speak up. So they might see a need or see something that needs to be changed, but they might just, I think they keep quiet. Because they're afraid, well, maybe the team leader's pushing this way or leading this way, so I better not say anything. I hope that helped answer.
Thank you. How would you say that you've seen being efficient help the group to achieve its goals, whether big or small, and to be who you all want to be as a group? How is efficiency?
Well, if you're more efficient, you're putting out less energy, less time, because efficient means you get the things desired done well and with excellence. It just helps us use less energy, less time, less stress to create the desired result.
Can you give me a couple of memories of times when you can think, here's the time when we were trying to do this, and because we were able to be efficient, it improved, or it helped, or it gave to the group? Are there a couple of specific examples?
Sure. Maybe there's a new place we're trying to reach out to, and I'm a stranger in that area. I don't know that part of Nairobi, but yet Moses does. Maybe as a youngster he grew up there. He knows people. He has the network. Well, if I go there, they don't know me. They don't trust me. They're suspicious. But if Moses leads us in there, oh, it's Moses. Well, yeah, how are you doing? And who are these people? Are you together? Are they your friends? Well, how can we help you? So that power of relationship and networking makes us more efficient in going to new places where we're looking for new street kids. Or that's one example I can think of.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
And then whenever somebody works in their strengths, it's going to be more efficient. Yeah. We have better teachers than me. Although I think one of my strengths is communicating, but not necessarily teaching. It's more communicating and encouraging. And I'm good with people, so that allows us to be more effective.
Yeah. Thanks. This next question is kind of almost the opposite of that question. Are there any times, can you think of any examples of when the group was conscious about being efficient and we're being efficient towards a certain goal, but it was complicating or hurting achieving the goal you're trying to achieve or being the type of group you wanted to be?
Okay. Now, do you mean a time when we just weren't efficient?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Maybe you all got the thing accomplished, but it for whatever reason it turned out to not be helpful towards what you were trying to do overall.
Sure. We fail a lot, and I think that's okay because you can learn a lot from your failure. So there are several instances. I can think of a time we were at a place where some street people were hanging out, and a fight broke out, and we tried to stop the fight. Well, that's a godly thing to do, but also we also put ourselves in great danger. And it was great to try to be a peacemaker because we know blessed are the peacemakers. But in that instance, we should have backed off. None of us were harmed, but we were almost harmed.
Yeah.
And I think we should have backed off, gotten out of the picture a little sooner, because we were at risk for being injured ourselves. So maybe that's an example.
Yeah.
It was our goal of being peacemakers, being loving, helping to rescue street people, but we put ourselves in danger.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just have two more.
Okay.
All right. One is.
This is going fast.
Yeah. Do you have a personal desire to become less efficient as the way you live and work, or more efficient, or is that not really something that you're focused on at the moment? How would you?
Okay. Well, that's easy for me to answer because I want to definitely become more efficient.
Okay.
I read a lot of leadership books. In fact, I'm very passionate about leadership, and so I love to learn more. I love to grow. I think if you're not growing, then you're dying. And Jim Collins has written some great books, Built to Last, Good to Great, and in that book he writes about getting the right people on the bus, and then you determine which seat they're going to sit on the bus, and then you determine where the bus is going. I think I've got that right. So I want to be more effective and more efficient. If I'm not efficient, I'm feeling stress. If I'm working efficiently, I have less stress, and I don't have to put out as much effort. And here's an example of that. I'm right-handed. Well, if I write my name right-handed, then there's no effort, no stress involved. But if I try to write my name with my left hand, I'm not very good at it. The result isn't good, and it takes me longer. And I feel a little stressed about it and a little embarrassed in my end result.
So would you say that your stress about those types of things is directly related to having to put in more effort, or would you say your stress is about something else?
I'm going to say it's about having to put in more effort, but also not getting the desired result. I'm not a worship leader. I'm not a song leader. And this is where working in your strengths comes in. If someone were to ask me to become the worship leader on a Sunday, well, I could do it, but I would be stressed about it, and I wouldn't do a very good job. But if you keep me in my strength zone, then I'm not as stressed. The end result is better, and I also get return on what I've put in because it also builds me up.
Yeah. And the last one is, do you desire for your community, the group you're part of in Kenya, to become more efficient or less efficient, or is that not a concern at the moment?
Well, I desire it, but sometimes just in the grind of the day, the everyday ministry, the everyday task and so forth, I forget about it sometimes. But it's definitely a desire. And in one way that it's a desire, I try to keep our meetings and make our meetings more effective and more efficient. Like I said earlier, I don't like wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
And and I try to make sure everybody works in their strength zone too.
Yeah.
So it's a desire for sure.
Yeah. And I haven't thought of another question. You're saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So your group, you say you oftentimes meet together and you'll discuss certain issues.
Right.
And you'll spend a good chunk of time doing that, but then kind of let some things hit the ground as you move away from those conversations and kind of forget what it was that you all worked out.
Right.
So if it were to be that you all spent that same amount of time, that long amount of time talking about those, but the items were followed up on, would that make you feel a lot different about how that time was spent?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I would think it's time well spent, time well invested, and we get more of the results.
Yeah.
And let's face it, the results are very important. God wants us to be fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
Not just faithful, but fruitful. Faithful is very important, but he also wants us to be fruitful. From John 15, we learn that.
Okay. Well, that's my last question.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Very good.
I have